Your boss thinks that you are a slow worker or that your tasks take a very long time before you deliver them, or you are always not meeting your work deadlines. So you already have this reputation of someone who does not deliver their work on time or someone who misses deadline. And so probably you've been sort of tagged as that slow worker. And so what do you do? Two things I would say is number one, just basically checking this situation. Number one, it could be the fact that you are truly slow compared to what is expected of you. That is situation one. Situation two is that you're not slow. You just have an issue estimating with precision the time it will take you to get your work done. Okay, so let us go through each situation and I will be telling you what you need to do per situation. Situation one, that it may be the case that you're actually slow compared to their expectations. So what I would say in that regard is for every single task, every small one or large project, determine the what is expected of you by checking in with your boss. When do you expect this to be delivered? Check in with them what their expectation is, because your expectation may not be their expectation. So you want to check in with them what they expect of you. Number two, you want to make sure that the quality slash delivery date, because sometimes they can offset. If you want to do good quality work, it may take a while to do. So there is a relationship between both. So you want to also have the conversation around quality and delivery of your task. Is it going to be a task that you do to a decent level and someone else can pick it up and do the final detail? Or is it something they want you to do it to a very good work standard? And in that case, it requires time and that needs to be discussed. Number three is you may need to brush up your technical capacity, because sometimes it may be the case that you may be lacking in some technical skills that will make you get through your bits and pieces of work on time. So you may want to brush that up. You may want to look, why did I not deliver this task on time? Was it because I did not know how to do something? And this is one of the ways you may know. If a task is sitting with you for a long period of time, say a week, 2 weeks, and you do not know what to do with it, it may be the case that that task should not be sitting with you in the first place. And it may be the case that you are not qualified enough to take decisions to carry out that task. Or that probably you're just missing some tiny bits of detail to fill in the gap so that you can deliver the work. So you want to know that you're technically skilled enough to get through the bits and pieces. Another thing I would also want to think about is your ability to streamline your processes and your ability to use technology tools to get your work done quite quickly. So if you're missing in that regard, because sometimes a task that somebody else would do manually for 2-3 days would take someone else 5 minutes, just because they can utilize good technology tools to get their work done as efficiently as possible. So you want to make sure that the time that you're wasting doing a piece of task cannot be done quite quickly by another person. Another thing I would say is, especially if you're overloaded, you may want to check how much work that you're doing at a particular time. And that is where priorities come in, because you need to be discussing your priorities from time to time. Now, when people give you tasks, they just load it up on you. They don't know how long it will take you to get through those bits and pieces. So it is your work to encourage them to talk about it. Talk about what you need to do and get them telling you what is important today. So today you want to say, what do I need to focus on today? Because I've got A, B, C, D, E, F. What is the focus for today? Okay. So that's one of the things that you want to sort of talk about. Another thing I want to say is this. Sometimes I have seen professionals who do not have a sense of urgency. It's not that they cannot do the work, or it's not that they can't use the tools, or it's not that their processes are not streamlined, or they are not delegating enough. It's just that they do not have a sense of urgency. And whatever has been communicated to them as priority, they take it with levity and they do not just work with it. Sometimes it can be a natural state. Some people are naturally laid back and they think that life should not be as hard as the timelines that have been communicated to them. And so they just do not act on it. I do not want you to fall into that that bracket. Please do not fall into that bracket. Develop a sense of urgency and do your work as efficiently as possible. So those are the areas where I see that it may be the truth that your work is being delivered in a slow manner and your bosses may not have so much patience to make sure that that work is done, to make sure that you get the work through to them at the time, at your own time. I also want you to know that time is worth more than money. And for every single hour you spend at work, there is an impact on your organization's bottom line. So you want to understand how much your cost per hour is and how that translates into wasted time if you keep doing things that make no sense for your organization and you keep missing deadlines. Beyond your own reputation, there is also the reputation of your organization if you keep missing deadlines and you keep disappointing clients and you keep disappointing customers and all of the other stakeholders that you had to work with or you will have to work with. So you will not be a very good representative of your organization if you keep missing deadlines. Don't forget, you are a salesperson other than the fact that you work in your role. So every single action and inaction of yours, including wasting time on projects that you could do quickly, has an impact on your organization's reputation and on how you come across as a representative of your organization. So your organization's reputation is at risk. Now, let's go to scenario 2 or situation 2, which is the case that it is not that you are slow. It is just that you've not been able to estimate with precision how long it will take you to get a piece of work done. Now, this is what I usually would call the benchmark is wrong. So from the outset of you starting a piece of work or a project, please estimate your time appropriately. This is what I want you to think about. Number 1, you want to think about that thought. How long will this task take me? Pretty much. If this task is going to take you a day, that thought in your mind that, oh, this task is a day, based on experience or based on I've seen somebody else do it, it took a day. Do not voice out that thought because it may not take a day. Things may differ. People who are doing work differ. You differ. And you also need to think about, you are feeling fantastic right now and you can say, oh, it's going to take a day. You don't know, this afternoon you may feel feverish and you may not be able to clock in the next day. Okay. So I want you to keep that thought in your mind. Say, okay, this is a reasonable time to completion, but what's the buffer? So you want to add an additional buffer on that time every single time. Right? So if it takes you a day, you can say, well, I don't know, let's give and take, let's say 2-3 days. Now, this is it. If it is not a very priority, very urgent is the word I was looking for. If it's not an urgent task, the person you're discussing will probably let you go with it. They will let you fly. They'll be like, okay, give me in 3 days. That is not to say you're not going to do any work in the next 2-3 days. There are other things that are competing for your attention that you need to get through. Right? So you can spend that time doing all those while also moving the dial on this particular task. Now, that being said, determine what reasonable is, and the game is precision. You must be precise. You must know why it takes a day and you must understand it. If you don't know how long a task will take, ask to come back. Go and ask others and estimate a good, and always say that it is an estimation and things may change. Okay, so be precise and then add buffer to it, and that buffer will take care of probably you're falling sick, you need time to finalize it, deeper detail, or maybe you need to consult with another team. Okay, so that will come in together nicely, and even if the work gets done after a day, you can turn it in. That puts you as someone who under promise and over delivers, and that's a very good place for you to be in. Also, do not forget that the best time, the most powerful moment you have is that time when you are being asked, how long will it take? Once you commit, your reputation is on the line, your name is at stake, your performance will be judged, and if you do not come back at the time, whether you like it or not, you're chipping away your confidence and chipping away your reputation and everything that you can imagine. Even your mental health may take a hit, because sometimes if you have gone out of line, to agree a cutthroat timeline that you cannot meet, you begin to feel incompetent, you begin to feel really anxious trying to meet the time. So I want you to think about this thing. Is very, very important, that at the point where you're agreeing to that timeline is your most powerful time, and that's the time to say, I cannot do this in 2 months. It will probably take 3 or 4. You need to know that. Now, you also want to make sure that communication works for you. No matter how precise you are, things change. Technology changes. You may have issues that is beyond you to resolve. A lot of things change. And that's where communication works for you. So you must keep an open communication as often as you can, via emails, via chats, via calls, whatever that means for you and your team. You must continue to tell people what you're up to, what you're doing, the impact of the wins you've gotten, the issues you're going through, and what that means for your team. The more you talk about these issues, the better you become at communicating, one. And number two, you are able to carry all of your bosses along on your journey. You don't want to get to a point where they don't know anything about the work you're doing, so they cannot really tell, even if you're having to take care of a lot of slack, probably by other team members. They don't know because you're not saying it. So you need to keep an open communication so that they can see so that they can have an idea what you're basically going through. Okay, so another thought regarding communication is this. You also, the moment it crosses your mind that you may not meet that timeline. Now, this is not factual. You don't know for a fact that you will miss it. But it thought just crosses your mind that, this issue that I'm looking at, if it blows in my face, I'm not going to meet this deadline. That is the moment when you should be talking about it to your bosses. To say, see, a thought has crossed my mind that if this particular issue remains, or if this team continues to ignore my emails and my calls, this project will be delayed. You should start talking about it. You should put it on your meeting agenda and you should start talking about it. The earlier you start talking about it, the lesser the probability of someone saying, oh, I didn't know that we were going to miss the deadline, because you have been talking about it. Okay, now, may I also add that even if you have a lot of tasks that you're going through to get through in your work, I want you to know that there are some tasks that are career defining. And these tasks, they don't come in a particular color, shape, or form. Some of them are very mundane, but if you miss it, depending on who you're working with, it may hinder your growth. So you must identify them. Your highest value tasks, you must identify them. Those are tasks that it may be some pieces of work that has to go to the boss of your boss of your boss. You want to spend a lot of time there to get through it as quickly as possible. Those are the kind of tasks that you put on the top of your radar. And those are the kind of tasks that are as soon as now, not as soon as possible. It's as soon as now. They are your go get a cup of coffee, sit down and get to it, trash it. Those are the kind of tasks that you do not want, even if you're delegating it, you're retaining full responsibility for it. Because if anything goes wrong, it has your name on it. Okay? So I hope I've been able to share some bits and pieces with you that will help you to continue to see yourself as not a slow performer that you have been seeing, but to begin to look at some things that you can tidy up when it comes to your career, and then you can start showing up as that person who meets their deadlines and does the things they need to do in time. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.